Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, my name is Ranisa Wulan and I'm from State Polytechnic of Sriwijaya. In this good opportunity, I would like to present the material about interview tools of data collection and research. At first, what is a definition of data collection and what are data collection tools? Data collection is defined as the procedure of collecting, measuring, and analyzing accurate insight for research using standard validated techniques, and a researcher can evaluate their hypothesis on the basic collection data. For the data collection tools are methodologies employed to gather data from a targeted select group of people to access predefined parameter by analyzing the data and gaining rich insight about the same. There are three types of data collection. There are observation, questionnaire, and interview. But in this occasion, I would like to explain only about the interview. What is an interview? An interview is a face-to-face conversation between two individuals with the sole purpose of collecting relevant information to satisfy a research purpose. An interview is one of the popular methods of research data collection. The term interview can be dissected into two terms as the inter and view. The essence of interview is that one mind tries to read the other. The interviewer tries to access the interviewed in terms of the aspects, study, or issue analyzed. There are three types of interview used in research. First, structured interview, and then unstructured interview, and the last is semi-structured. Uh, what is a structured interview? Structured interview is an interview in which the question the interviewers are to ask, and in many cases, the answer categories the respondents are to use have been fully developed and put in an interview schedule before the interview begins. Then, the choice of answer to the question is often fixed, close-ended. In advanced talk, open-ended question can also be included within a structured interview. Uh, there are three kinds of a characteristic of a structured interview. Uh, the first is list of question and answer categories has been prepared. In an interview structure, a list of question is written in the question form as well as with the answer categories that have been provided, usually deep interview form. The researcher only has to read the question that has been written, while the researcher subject only need to answer according to the answer provided, and then controlled interview speed. Because of the number of the question and the number of answer option already available, and the possibilities the answer to be obtained can be predicted. Of course, the time of the speed of the interview is controllable and calculated the previously by researcher. Researcher can do simulation first before conducting the interview and note the time needed during the interview. The interview guide in order of question, use of words, and then sentence, choice of answer, and not improvisation. Guidelines. The interview includes a series of questions and their order arranged and adapted to flow conversation. Not allow use language of words that are not written in the guidelines interview. And for the unstructured interview, An unstructured interview is an interview in which there is no specific set of predetermined questions. Although the interviews usually have certain topics in mind that they wish to cover during the interview. Unstructured interview flow like an everyday conversation and tend to be more informal and open-ended. There are three kinds of characteristic of unstructured interview. Uh, there are the at first the question posed are very open. The subject answer are broad and varied. Researcher can improvise freely in asking questions with a very open question, and almost no guidelines were used as a control. Likewise, with the answer and subject or interview can be broad and varied. Any question limitation in the shift, so it's very likely that the talks will expand. And the second is interview speed is difficult to predict. As an appropriate casual chat, the pace of the interview times is more difficult to predict because it really depends on the flow of conversation that the controls are very flexible and soft. The end of the interview was not structured, either sometimes no getting to a clear conclusion. And the third is very flexible in terms of questions and answer. Question which proposed by the researcher or interview and the answer obtained from researcher subject or interviewers are very flexible. It even seems like casual chatting if the researcher chooses the type of this interview is not experienced or who has had the experience lacking. It will make experience difficult in formulating them and being interesting interview conclusion. And the last is interview guidelines or guidelines interview are very loose in order question, word usage, speech flow, and so on. At interview and structure, there are no topics that govern the flow talk, but only a central theme is used researcher or interviewer as an interview control flow take place. And the last is semi-structure. Semi-structured interview is interview style combines the two. A semi-structured interview is a type of interview in which the interviewer asks only a few predetermined questions while the rest of the questions are not planned in advance. There are there are three kinds of the characteristic of semi-structured interview. The first is the question is overt, but there are limitations to them and flow of the conversation. The question posed in semi-structured interview are open question, meaning that the answer given is not limited, so that the subject can more freely express what the answer as long as it doesn't get out of the context of the conversation. And then the interview speed is predictable. Interview speed and timing must be controlled, even though there is a freedom in answering question interview, and the last flexible but controllable uh, in question and answer. It means that question proposed is flexible depending on the condition and their flow talks. Likewise, the answer given by the subject can more flexible. Although the question and answer uh, are, are flexible, but there is still a control that is held by the researcher, namely the dumb interview. And the tools of college data. There are three things of tools of college data, The first is called audio recorder. Audio recorder is used for recording sound on this tape or film. Audio record audio This audio can meet the needs of a wide range of people as well as provides alternatives to print data collection tools. And then digital camera. Digital camera, for the advantage of these tools is that it can be used for transmitting those image for monitoring screen when the needs are resist. And the last, camcorder. Camcorder is used for collecting data toward interview. Uh, it provides a combination of both an audio recorder and video camera. I think that's all about my presentation. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.